Welcome to the Agency Uplift podcast, all about the unique and very harrowing experience, not harrowing, but the fun experience of growing an agency, all the ups, the downs, the challenges, the learnings, and honestly, the great opportunities for growth. I'm Sean. I'm an agency owner of over 7 years, co-founder of an agency called Social Commerce Club, and I'm joined today by Landon Gartner, owner of VanSpec Media. Landon, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sean mentioned Landon Gartner, owner of VanSpec Marketing. We are a full service agency based out of British Columbia in Canada, not far away from where Sean is.
Yeah, I think that we've kind of known each other in passing for, I don't know, probably my entire agency journey and
hmm
potentially yours as well. You guys started in 2017?
Yeah, we started in 2017, really focused on local business and have kind of scaled from there.
Cool. Yeah, we started in 2018, so you beat us to the punch by a little bit there. Um,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear, because everyone's origin story is a little bit different. How did you first get into the agency world?
Yeah, so I actually started at a financial industry, working at a bank, and met someone there who was very interested in entrepreneurship. He had some previous endeavors, really interested in business. I was kind of just coming out of university at the time, also very interested in business and marketing and wanting to start something on my own. Turns out this gentleman, his name is Riley, who's now one of my founding partners. Him and another were in the process of starting an agency already. We went for dinner. We talked a little bit about it, and they invited me in to be involved, which was kind of how things got started.
Very interesting. So it's you and two other partners?
That's correct. Yeah, the three of us, all went to the same university. We're all from the same city here. We all actually went to the same high school, even different graduation years, but it all seemed to make sense. At the time, it was kind of a bit of a side hustle, maybe say, a part-time thing, not something that we were kind of fully focused on, but something we were doing off the side of our desks.
That's yeah, that's really interesting. Off the side of your desk. So, um, what made the three of you decide to make the decision to go all in?
Yeah, so it started small, as I guess anything does, and we had a hard time with a few things, pricing and client acquisition and all this stuff, but we started building relationships, and as the our capabilities grew and as our client portfolio grew, it became obvious that we were doing the right things, and it was time to start taking things a little more serious.
Yeah, I hear that, and obviously you guys were enjoying the work and probably
Yeah,
probably enjoying the freedom and sort of the blank slate of the entrepreneurial endeavor.
yeah, it comes with its challenges and stresses, but uh, all in all, it's a great experience. Yeah.
It's funny because I mean, when you say that with that knowing smile for anyone who's not actually watching but just listening, um, Landon had a very typical knowing smile on his face when I said, it's good. And like, yeah, but because the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial journey is it's it's kind of that whole, like, that saying of choose your hard. It's fantastic in many ways, but everyone listening, I'm sure you will agree, it's got its own set of challenges, and you just sort of have to decide, what what is what challenges am I willing to live with? Is it, being constrained by someone else's vision and working for someone else, or is it dealing with the uncertainty and kind of chaos of doing my own thing without a safety net? And it's funny because for me personally, when I've been in that situation where there's no safety net and it kind of feels like do or die, I still look at the other option of, well, what would it be like if I worked for somebody else? And immediately I'm like,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah.
never. I will never do that again. I could never do that again. And I think that's people like us are maybe wired a little bit differently, because there are some people who might listen to this and be like, no, what are you talking about? Working for
Mhm.
somebody else? That's stability. That sounds great. But you've clearly um, you've clearly seen the benefit of doing your own thing.
Yeah, it takes a certain degree of discipline and motivation, self-motivation to be able to do something on your own, but it's very rewarding. The chance to see something grow that you've contributed to or that you've made is unlike anything else. It's very special.
I completely agree. There's no feeling like it when something just starts to work, and you step back and you say to yourself, I did that. Like,
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty
Wow.
awesome.
I didn't back in school when they were telling you, go to college, go to university, and then work for a big firm or something. You never knew that like you could actually do it yourself.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm not going to go on too much of an educational rant, but I feel like the educational system trains us to support other people's vision rather than actually have our own vision and build that. When in reality, so many more people could be building incredible things if they just had the belief in themselves that they could do it.
Yeah, confidence is a big thing, and it's not easy. I mean, I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time, day to day, and um, it's challenging. But you can look and see what you've done, and it's a little bit of fake it till you make it along the way. But it's something that's very unique
For sure, for sure. Um, okay, I have a habit of getting a little philosophical, so
for
let's
sure.
get back onto the agency track here. So you've been at it for quite a while now, and I
Mhm.
know from my own journey, I've encountered a lot of interesting ups and downs. I'd love to hear of some of the struggles that you encountered at your agency and sort of how you came out of those.
Yeah, I think starting with being focused so solely on small local business was a challenge for us. It's kind of a core value. We are born and raised in Abbotsford here, and we're very passionate about helping our community. And that's kind of where things started from. And we quickly realized that local business was a little restricting with regard to budgets and things like that. So being able to acquire clients became more challenging with each passing month, and as we grew. So what we did is started to form some strategic partnerships. Partnerships are so key, and they have been so key for us. Partnering with larger agencies who needed a trusted partner for overflow or smaller budget work than they would take on. We became that for a few different agencies, and for us, that's what really took us to the next level. Helped to grow our portfolio with some larger name clients, and started to introduce us to working with clients not just in Abbotsford but across North America.
So, what caused you to look at the partnership avenue as a way to grow? Was that something that somebody sort of told you about? Was it something that you just
Yeah,
sort of discovered?
it's something that we kind of just discovered. We went to a number of networking events. We've gone to digital marketing conferences and summits and things like that. And I think just the people that you meet there, and we made some connections there that had some lasting impacts for us. Which I mean, we still continue to go to those events as much as we can. Being in Abbotsford, it's a little more challenging. We make our way out to Vancouver on a fairly regular basis to attend some of these events, but we found that they are really great places to meet, to share our knowledge, and to make those partnerships.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. To listeners who haven't actually gotten into the world of partnerships, what would you suggest they do to sort of start to look for good fit partnerships and build those partnerships?
Yeah, well, it's something I'm still working on today. My goal for myself recently has been get one meeting, at least one meeting a week in my calendar with someone that I haven't talked to who either is a freelancer or works at another agency, and just start getting my name out there, start talking to people, building a personal network a little bit. It's not always going to be a good fit, but I think just having those conversations, even if you just keep each other in your Rolodex and you chat from time to time, that relationship is invaluable. Um, but typically, when I'm looking for a good partner, I'm looking for someone who has similar services or a similar ICP as we have, but they maybe provide a different service or specialize in a different service than we provide, and then finding a way to work together or be able to refer work back and forth.
For sure, yeah, that's really smart. For us in the early days, back before we had any email marketing services, we actually our first partnership was was with an email marketing agency. They did no paid ads, we did no email marketing, and so it was sort of the perfect symbiotic relationship where generally most brands that are on email marketing, if they're not doing paid ads, they want paid ads, and vice versa when it comes to paid ads and email marketing. And so we were able to send a lot of business back and forth, and it was just beneficial to both parties.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a I don't I think it's key. You have to make those relationships. I don't think you can do it successfully without that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I've also found that works really, really well for partnerships because it can feel a little daunting to approach someone and say, "Hey, um, can you send me business? I'll send you business too. And the other person's like, yeah, I've done this dance, 10 times before and nothing ever comes of it. And rightfully so. Like if somebody approaches me with a partnership request, I'm gonna have that thought in the back of my mind. I try
Hmm.
not to be that cynical, but we
Yeah.
have lots of conversations, professional conversations that just seem to go nowhere. And one thing that I found works really really well is if you identify I'll call them a partnership target, someone who you think you could be a really great partner for, rather than even make the ask. If you've identified that they're gonna benefit from referrals from you, I would first go and get the referral and make the introduction, and then in that introduction afterwards, say, "Hey, I have more referrals like this. I think that there's an opportunity for us to start a partnership relationship." And then you're starting off already putting a deposit into that relationship. And even if they don't reciprocate right away, realistically, if you do that a few times, you're probably going to get a reciprocal referral back, and then you can kind of make it official into a partnership.
Yeah, it's a great approach. Not something that we've tried ourselves, but something maybe I'll add to the list.
It's something that you definitely have to be very proactive of. It's kind of like it's similar in a way to the concept in sales of having like your dream 100 or something, where there's 100 clients that like, or 100 businesses that if I could get one of those, that would be huge. And so I've heard people do this where they'll say like, every month I'm going to take 5 actions towards my dream 100, just on the off chance that one of these actually lands, and then we get the opportunity. Versus if you just dream about it, it's never going to happen, right?
Yeah, you got to take some action. That's exactly right.
It's also pretty crazy that you never really know who is in whose network or what kind of
Totally.
relationship somebody has. So you might think that
Yep.
something is so far outside of the realm of possibility, and then you meet the right person, and they say, "Oh, I can
Hmm.
introduce you."
Yeah.
Suddenly, you just skipped like 5 steps up the ladder, right?
Yeah, that's happened for us a couple times, where the person that we initially spoke to, maybe it wasn't the greatest fit, but they they knew of someone else who was, and we've had that happen maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and we're still working with that partner, still referring each other business, and it works very well. So yeah, to your point, it's not necessarily about an action or activation immediately upon meeting someone, but I think being able to leverage one another's networks and just become a partnership in some way.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned last time we chatted, and you made a post about this on LinkedIn
Mhm.
about working with the local university and
Yeah.
the students specifically. I think that's something that would be really interesting to our listeners.
Yeah. So this university, the University of the Fraser Valley out here in Abbotsford, it's the university that the three of us co-founders graduated from. We have again strong values and ties to our local community and helping marketers. So we partnered with them about 4 years ago to bring in third and fourth year marketing and graphic design students on a semester basis. They work with us on client projects. So they're getting kind of real world experience working at an agency and they're contributing to our agency work. For us, it's not necessarily an ROI driven play, but it does focus more on that kind of community support, helping students get real world experience. To your point earlier, it's a lot of working in a silo and working on class projects and being talked at. I think this practicum program lets them kind of step up beyond that and explore real world experience.
Yeah, that's really valuable, especially for them. I mean, one thing that I've noticed, hiring people directly out of agencies versus directly out of education, is that they don't have the hands-on knowledge. And I think the really tricky thing about getting into the marketing world is it changes so fast that the theory
Yeah.
is even if at the start of the year, if the curriculum is quote unquote up to date, it's going to be out of date by the time they finish their education. And you really need to have your hands on the actual marketing, on the actual industry, finger on the pulse to understand
Mhm.
how the knowledge that I've just gained actually applies to the real world.
Yeah, I mean, going back to my time in university, that was maybe a frustration, a struggle of mine is my digital marketing class. They're still talking about the 4 Ps of marketing and things like that. And the world had moved on at that point. Digital marketing was becoming a big thing, and there was no talk about that. The discussion around social media just wasn't there. E-commerce just wasn't there. So it's I kind of knew these things were going on, but in school was not hearing anything about them. So I think this practically gives them a chance to see this firsthand, learn, get to experience what it's like working on a client project, how we communicate with clients, things like that. Um, Challenge themselves creatively. For me as a leader, it's extremely challenging on a weekly basis. It's very rewarding, but it pushes me to become a better leader and to grow in that area, which I probably wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely get that. That's really cool. That's something that I think down the line I'd love to look into as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Partner
Beyond,
with local institutes.
yeah, even beyond that, the potential for like a hiring pipeline that comes out of it. We have had two or three students who their work was just amazing, and their ability to communicate just fit so well. And we've continued working with them to this day, 1, 2 years later, and they are great members of our team now. So I think beyond the kind of immediate reward, there's a longer term potential there as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, okay, so we've talked a little bit about this, but if you could pinpoint maybe let's say two things. One, your biggest learning running an agency within the last year, and then two, your biggest learning running an agency over the whole lifespan of running an agency. What would those be?
Yeah, I think one of the main things that I've learned is that the industry is not cutthroat. It's quite collaborative. There's a lot of work to go around. I think initially when I came into this, I was like trying to compete with everyone and thinking that that was the way. And I found out as time has moved on that that's not the case. There's more than enough work to go around, especially in British Columbia here. The agency owner network is very, very supportive of one another and willing to make these partnerships. I think it's you just got to put the effort in, maybe step out of your comfort zone a little bit to talk to these people, but the opportunity is there. And if you fight it and try and compete, that's the wrong decision. I think embracing the collaboration is pretty important.
That is huge. That's a lesson that we learned early on. Again, you go in trying to be sort of competitive and trying to make your
Hmm.
mark, and maybe you run some competitor keyword ads, and then
Yeah,
you quickly realize how actually detrimental that is to the overall industry and the ecosystem. I mean, collaboration is always king compared to
yeah,
competition, I think.
yeah, totally. The other thing I think the three of us, or two of us, two of the three of us, are still very involved in the day to day, and I think that looking back, I would have liked to start hiring account managers and things like that a little earlier on to remove the reliance on the two of us managing things so much. We're at the point now where we're trying to remove ourselves from that day to day a little bit, and we're facing some challenges in doing so. We need to build those processes and things like that now that we could have been doing maybe a little while ago.
Yeah, that's something I hear often. So I was going to ask why, but it sounds like the main thing is just the lack of the or not the lack of, but maybe not enough process in place. Are there specific areas within the agency that have stronger processes versus other areas?
Not necessarily. I think we've relied so heavily for so long on us
Hmm.
doing everything. And that came from a place of love. Like we just love doing this stuff. I love managing clients. Like it's something that I enjoy the day-to-day communication with them. But we're realizing now that we don't have time to work on growing the business or building these processes or doing things. We're essentially employees within our own agency. So it's time for us to kind of take that step back, reevaluate, reassess, and focus a little bit on strategy and the business growth.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Have you taken any steps yet to sort of work on that?
We're taking steps kind of as we go. This is something that's sort of been a 2025 challenge for us, and we're making some progress, but it's definitely not easy.
It's not easy. I completely understand that, and I've been there where it can feel like in order to set up the systems, the infrastructure that you need, it takes you away from the work that you're trying to do, which is obviously something that you don't want to do. You don't want to stall your agency's growth. You don't want to lose revenue, lose clients, what have you,
Hmm.
or just have the quality work suffer in order to build the operation stronger. So it can definitely be a bit of a bit of a struggle. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before. I've definitely mentioned this on the podcast before, but one thing that I often recommend that people do, and I've actually got a short video on this in my school group, but is adopting an approach of doing the work while documenting the process at the same time.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before, but for the
Mhm.
listeners who aren't familiar with this, long story short, and you can watch the longer content in the school group, but is essentially use a screen cap software like Loom. I like Loom. And then just record yourself, record your screen doing the work and talk your way through it while you're doing it. So it removes the friction of I'm not getting the work done in order to do the process. I'm actually doing the work while I also create the process as well. And then, of course, you get a transcript out of it because you're talking through it. And then you can take that transcript and you can throw that into an AI model and format that as an SOP. So
Mhm.
it maybe took you 2 or 3 minutes more than it took you to do the work. But now you actually have a video that somebody can be trained on and then a checklist or SOP that they can follow. And then it's done. So um,
Brilliant.
it's it's a great way to remove that friction. And also one thing that I think is really important um, for everyone listening and Landon as well is when you're going down this or when you're approaching this challenge of systematizing your agency and adding processes. I think it's really really important that it's not top down and that it's not coming from you and then you're kind of just telling people follow the process. I think it's actually very important that to get buy-in and to make sure that everything is as accurate as possible is to teach each person on your team how to create these processes
Mhm.
and then have them create the processes for them because then it's going to be most accurate. And then you're going to get visibility on how the work is being done rather than you saying this is how the work should be done when in reality it might not actually be
Right.
totally accurate how it's getting done.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think, again, going back to that practicum, it's it's taught me that learning from both ends. It happens from both ends. I'm so open to their feedback now. One of the things I tell them is communication is key. If I'm doing something that you don't like don't be afraid to tell me. Challenge me with that. I'm totally open. I'm not going to be upset or frustrated to be challenged. I want to be challenged. I welcome that. That's how I'm going to grow. So it's so true. I really resonate with that.
Awesome. How has the agency changed since you started it? You mentioned the types of clients you started with, but I know that
Yeah.
you've made some shifts. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so our client portfolio has grown, and I think this the types of clients that we're working with now are a little bit more serious about marketing. Um, Initially, we kind of started as we would be someone's marketing department, and that's not really where we want to fit anymore. We're looking more to be a strategic partner who works alongside maybe a marketing team, a small marketing team at an organization that's stretched too thin or is looking for expertise somewhere. And I think that's where we found a good place for ourselves. We've worked with a few e-commerce brands, some national egg brands, things like that that have helped us to learn, okay, this is our ideal client. This is who we should be looking for. This is the values that they share with us. This is how they communicate, things like that. We've learned over time. Um, it can be a bit of a thankless job in times if you're not aligned with the right people. Clients don't see the effort that goes in behind the scenes. They have expectations that can be unrealistic. So I think, and I know you talk about values a lot, it's a good place to start and understanding and making sure that a client aligns with those values
Yep.
before bringing them in.
That's huge. Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, and I'll spare the listeners my my browbeating on why they need core values because I think everyone's tired of it now. I'm not going to stop, but that's yeah, that's really really true. Are there any are there any big wins that you guys have had in the last year or two that you could kind of walk me through?
Ooh, I think the realization about this partnership thing and how important it is, we've activated it so much more, and we're continuing to see the fruits of our labor and going to these events and making these connections. And I think, yeah, I think that's a big win for us just internally is making that realization, and then the similarly the realization that we need to start documenting processes and building beyond the three of us and our subcontractors. We need to be positioned in a way that we can bring team members on seamlessly. So I think 2024 was a big year of learning for us, and hopefully 2025 will be a big year of taking some action and setting ourselves up.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Um, what would you say is your agency's, or maybe not even your agency's, but maybe even you personally? What would you say your superpower is in this space?
I think communication is one of where I'm very, very good. I'm a quick, efficient worker. So when I get client messages and things like that, I'm often responding very quickly. That serves as a really great benefit. Also comes back to bite me in the ass sometimes. It's over setting expectations in some cases. So I think it's a great benefit. Again, part of the fact that we're a smaller agency is that we're very agile. We are quick to move. We're able to move quickly. It doesn't take us weeks and weeks to onboard. Things like that, we're very fast at. So I think that's a big benefit to us being a small agile agency.
That's yeah, for sure. Super, super important, especially in this day and age. And I think that the agencies that never stopped being agile, even as they grew, they're probably the ones that are having the most success right now. So definitely don't ever
Correct.
lose
Yeah.
that. I love to ask people in the agency space what their favorite tools, applications, maybe use cases for AI are, because there's so many opportunities these days to sort of leverage and sort of amplify what we're already doing. So, what would yours be?
Yeah, I think AI is something we talk about a lot. So I'm going to talk about a tool that's not AI related. But I think in general, what helped our agency kind of step up to the next level was the introduction of a project management software.
Hmm.
So we use Basecamp. We invite our clients into Basecamp. We set up projects based on each client, and it allows us to keep communication, keep documents, everything siloed in one channel. There's no threads of emails that you're going back looking for. It just keeps everything really, really organized, which again helps us be more efficient. So when we introduced that tool back in 2022 or 2023, it changed things for us. Um, just in the way that we work, how much more efficient we were able to be. So I think looking at a project management tool early on, figuring out how to make it work for you, whatever that may be, Monday.com, Asana, Basecamp, finding one that works for you is a really, really important first step.
Yeah, that is a critical thing to implement in your agency. What were you using before you implemented Basecamp?
We, not a whole lot. We had Asana boards privately that we used, but I think that what changed it for us was inviting the client in to the project management tool, and we found Basecamp worked really well for that. Having the client in there removed, as I say, all the text messages and email chains and all these things and put everything in one place, easy to search back, look back at, easy to find what you're looking for. And it just worked well for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super important, and it really sounds like I would guess that one of your major core values is around communication, because it seems like a lot of the big shifts you've made, the big improvements have been around communication. I mean, at the end of the day, project management is just effective communication around the work that needs to be done.
Yeah, 100%. I think communication is key, and that's not something um, that we can sacrifice as we scale. It's something we still want our quality of work and our service standards to remain the same or as similar as possible while we scale. So that's been a big focus for us.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Landon, this has been great. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Awesome.
Where can everyone find out more about you and VanSpec?
Yeah, so you can check out our agency website at vanspecmarketing.com. And I'd always be happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn, Landon Gartner on LinkedIn. Be happy to connect and chat.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.